Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's ocean session by the Copernicus Marine Service, focusing on the future of the high seas. I'm Marine Delorme, a Training and Capacity Development Officer at Mercator Ocean. Daria Andrievskaya from Noveltis and I will be guiding you through this training session. Today, we're exploring how operational ocean data like observations, modeling, and indicators made available by Copernicus Marine can support high seas governance, ecosystem monitoring, and science-based policy development. Before we begin, let's quickly go over some house rules to make sure you enjoy this session to the fullest. Please don't use the chat box on your right-hand side for questions. It's there for greetings and for sharing links with participants throughout the session. If you have a technical or content-related question, we invite you to use the dedicated Q&A section. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the Q&A button at the top of your screen to ask questions to our speakers. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of each presentation. And while you're there, you'll also see a poll about today's webinar. Feel free to fill it out anytime during the session. We will also send you a link to the survey after the webinar, so you can fill it in later if you prefer. Finally, we encourage you to visit the guidelines and resources section of the event website. There you will find useful links to Help Center articles and to several interesting parts of the Copernicus Marine website, as well as links shared by our guest speakers. So I will now give the floor to Daria to present the agenda.
Thank you, Marine, and hello, everyone. My name is Daria, and I'll be your second co-host today. And well, for our agenda, it's pretty straightforward today. So we'll start with introduction to Copernicus Marine Service, which is going to be presented to you by Marine, who you already know. Then we're going to move to introduction to the BBNG agreement presented by Mai Butel, who is a project coordinator at Mercator Ocean International as well. Then the next presentation is from Mercator Ocean International as well. It is by Leila Fabra, who is a user support officer, and it's going to be about MyOcean viewer. A demonstration of this tool. We will have a short coffee break, about 10 minutes, and we will move to the second part of day with our more like use cases. And the first is going to be the introduction to NECCTON project by Olivia Foni. She's a project manager at Mercator Ocean International. And then we have two user testimonies. First one by Anna Teruzzi, who is a researcher at Oceanographic Institute. And then it's going to be Lara Veilate from who is a research scientist at Norwegian company Sintef. And that's it. We'll have also some remarks from Marine after all. And yeah, we will move to the first presentation. It's introduction to the Copernicus Marine Service. And well, Marine, the floor is yours again.
Thank you. Okay, so I will do a brief introduction to the Copernicus Marine Service and to Copernicus. So Copernicus is the European Union's Earth Observation Program. Since it launched in 2012, it has become one of the world's leading sources of operational environmental data. Its mission is to monitor our planet and provide reliable insights into how the Earth system is evolving. All Copernicus services follow the same principle. They offer long-term, trustworthy data that is free and open to all. Today, we will focus on the Copernicus Marine Service, implemented and operated by Mercator Ocean. This service delivers high-quality, regularly updated ocean data, describing the physical ocean, sea ice, and marine ecosystems. This data supports science, policy, coastal management, innovation, and many different sectors of the blue economy. To produce these datasets, the Copernicus Marine Service combines three complementary sources: in situ observations from buoys, floats, and research vessels offering precise local measurements; satellite observations, which provide global continuous coverage; and ocean models, which assimilate observations and generate forecasts, analysis, and long-term reanalysis. The service offers a vast and diverse catalog, real-time data, up to 10-day forecasts, and up to 30 years of historical reanalysis covering the global ocean and Europe's key regional seas. This makes the data valuable for both scientific and operational applications. The Marine Service also supports a wide range of communities. We group these applications into 12 blue markets aligned with the 3 pillars of the UN Sustainable Development Goal: environment, society, and economy. They illustrate how Copernicus Marine data can be transformed into actionable knowledge for decision-making. To fully describe the ocean, we classify variables into 3 families: the blue ocean, which covers physical processes such as temperature, salinity, currents, sea level, winds, waves. The white ocean focuses on sea ice variables like sea ice concentration, sea ice thickness, and motion. And the green ocean includes biogeochemical indicators like chlorophyll, nutrients, oxygen, carbon, pH, and ecosystem-related variables. All this information and data is accessible through a single entry point, marine.copernicus.eu. After a simple and free registration, you can browse the data store, download harmonized datasets, and explore detailed product pages that include metadata, documentation, quality information, and multiple data access options. From the homepage, you need to click on Ocean Products to open the catalog. In addition to downloading data, you can explore it visually using our online tools available under Ocean Visualization. There are 3 viewers, each designed for different needs. MyOcean Learn is ideal for outreach, education, and simplified exploration. MyOcean Lite is perfect for quick interactive viewing of essential ocean variables. And MyOcean Pro, our more advanced viewer for more detailed exploration. With it, you can select specific datasets, compare satellite, in situ, and model data, perform custom queries, and generate high-resolution graphs. So you will get a demonstration of this MyOcean Pro viewer a bit later in the session with Leila. Users can rely on multiple support channels. A live chat connects them directly to the user support team, and a large knowledge base of more than 160 articles is searchable from the same interface. Users can also interact with Blue, the Copernicus Marine AI companion, which answers many questions instantly. And if the automated support is not enough, users can always reach a human expert for personalized help. We also wanted to show you today a new way to share feedback with the Copernicus Marine team. The user feedback and needs platform is a dedicated space for users to share ideas, suggestions, or needs. Whether you have a new product suggestion or a satisfaction comment, this is the place for you. It's accessible through the link posted in the chat and from the user corner of the Copernicus Marine website. You need to use your Copernicus Marine credentials to connect to it, and then you can leave your comment. Last but not least, Mercator Ocean and the Copernicus Marine Service have launched a new podcast called Decoding the Ocean. The series will explore how ocean science, digital innovation, and free and reliable ocean information have real-world impact. The podcast is available on all platforms. You can access it by scanning the QR code on the screen or through the link in the chat once again. The first episode is already live, and it introduces the fundamental role of the ocean in regulating the climate, supporting biodiversity, and sustaining human activities. So go have a listen and let us know what you think. So that's it for my introduction to the Copernicus Marine Service, and we will now go to our second speaker of the day, who is Maya Butel, project coordinator at Mercator Ocean, and Maya will give us an introduction to the BBNG Treaty. Maya, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just gonna share my slides. Good morning.
Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. So, can you see my slides?
Not yet.
All right, let me try again.
Yes, we can see it full screen now. All good.
Perfect. So, good morning, good evening, everybody. My name is Maya. I am project coordinator at MyOcean International, and I work on project related to ocean science for policy. So today I'll be introducing the Agreement on the Conservation and Sustainable Use of Marine Biological Diversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction, which is also known as the BBNJ or the High Seas Treaty. It'll be an introduction to the treaty, very broad overview. So, what is the BBNJ Treaty? The BBNJ Treaty is the legal framework to protect and sustainably manage the areas beyond national jurisdictions, which represent over 60% of the ocean. You might have heard of the treaty recently because it entered into force in January after over 20 years of preparation and negotiation. So it was a very big milestone that we achieved in January. And that is why we have a heightened political and media interest for this treaty. So the overall objective of the treaty is to ensure the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity, so marine biodiversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. And so this treaty is linked to a convention that is mentioned here on this treaty. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about this convention to illustrate the interaction with this convention and other environmental governance frameworks. So the BBNJ Treaty is directly linked to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which is known as the Constitution of the Ocean and entered into force in 1982. It is a convention that determined the zones of the water column and of the seabed, such as the territorial seas, exclusive economic zones, and high seas, etc. However, it did not address explicitly biodiversity, and that is why the BBNJ Treaty was created to specifically address this gap and to focus on biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction, meaning the high seas, so the areas that are not managed by countries. So it is directly linked to this treaty, but it will also be integrated within a wider environmental governance landscape, let's say, which we still need to understand how it will interact with other agreements, such as the UN Convention on Climate Change, for example. But we already know that the BBNJ Treaty will not undermine any relevant agreement. It is meant to work together with what already exists. So today we'll focus on four key parts of the BBNJ Treaty, which are displayed here on the screen. So marine genetic resources, including the fair and equitable sharing of benefits, measures such as area-based management tools, including marine protected marine protected areas or MPAs, capacity building and the transfer of marine technology and environmental impact assessments. So we will now go into more details for each one of these elements. The part that focuses on MGR, so marine genetic resources, sets out regulations on how activities related to marine genetic resources will be governed and how the benefits from their use will be shared. And the reason and the rationale behind this is that the ocean contains the highest genetic diversity on Earth, which holds great scientific and economic opportunity for a wide range of industries, pharmaceutical industry or other industries. And the issue is that the capacities to access and use these resources have been unequally distributed between different states and actors. For instance, we know that the patents, more than 74% of the patents associated with marine genetic resource sequences are held by entities that are located in only 3 countries. So we see that it is highly unequal and not very fairly distributed, and the idea behind BBNJ is to reestablish a sort of balance there. The second part of the BBNJ treaty that we'll be focusing on today is the area-based management tools part. So ABMTs, or area-based management tools, are an important component of marine conservation and spatial planning. And so essentially it is a tool, so for a geographically defined area, through which one or several sectors or activities are managed with the aim of achieving a particular conservation and sustainable use objective. That is the official definition under the BBNJ Treaty. And the idea behind this is that the BBNJ Treaty aims to establish a comprehensive system of management tools with a well-connected network of marine protected areas. And what changed with BBNJ is that before BBNJ, we didn't have a global overarching framework to create area-based management tools in the high seas. And now with BBNJ, we do have a legal framework to create marine protected areas in the high seas, or a network of marine protected areas, or other area-based management tools. The next part of the BBNJ treaty that we wanted to cover today is environmental impact assessments. So an environmental impact assessment is a tool to evaluate and inform decision makers about the environmental impacts of a planned project, as well as how the project can be improved to avoid any adverse effect on marine biodiversity. And so similar to the area-based management tool, before BBNJ, we didn't have uniform requirements or standards for areas beyond national jurisdiction. And with BBNJ, we do have modern requirements for assessing and managing the effect of human activities on marine biodiversity. And importantly, these provisions on environmental impact assessments are not only focusing on activities taking place in the high seas, but also in activities taking place within national jurisdiction, if there's a possibility that this activity can harm the marine biodiversity in the high seas. So it is very integrated. And finally, the last part of the BBNJ treaty that we wanted to focus on today is the capacity building and the transfer of marine technology, which essentially focuses on equity. It promotes cooperation at all levels, so the scientific community, the private sector, wider society, and very importantly, indigenous peoples and local communities. And so that was already a provision that existed under UNCLOS, so the Convention on the Law of the Sea, but it wasn't implemented. It was very poorly implemented under UNCLOS because we didn't have a specific funding source or framework to really ensure that this provision was effectively implemented. And that has changed with BBNJ, as there is a funding source, a monitoring review and framework, and a dedicated committee to ensure that equity is a central part of all the provisions and all the ways that the BBNJ treaty is effectively implemented. So the role of this capacity building and marine technology committee is to assess and review the capacity needs of developing countries, identify and mobilize funds to achieve capacity building and transfer marine technology, and review the support provided and mobilized. Now I wanted to give a little overview of the institutions and processes, basically the way that the BBNJ treaty will work. So we have a number of bodies, the Conference of the Parties, or the COP, which you might have heard in the context of the climate COP, for example, the UNFCCC, the Climate Convention. They also have a COP. BBNJ also has a COP. It essentially just is the main decision-making body that takes all the decision pertaining to the BBNJ treaty. So the Conference of the Party is composed of all the parties to the convention, so all the countries or unions that have ratified the treaty. The Conference of the Parties will be supported by other institutions such as the Secretariat and the Clearinghouse mechanisms, mechanism, sorry, and a number of subsidiary bodies that are listed here on the screen. And before going into details with each of these process or body, it's important to say that there are still a lot of questions and considerations to work on regarding the composition or the arrangement for these bodies, which will be determined by the Conference of the Parties, hopefully during the first COP, which will take place in the end of 2026 or beginning of 2027. So, for example, questions such as the frequency and location of meetings, the terms of reference for all of these bodies, financial rules, and some technical aspects of some of the institutions or bodies here still need to be developed and determined specifically during the Conference of the Party. So you will have a secretariat, which will provide admin support, facilitate the implementation. You will have a clearinghouse mechanism, which is basically, which will be led by the secretariat and will be a central hub for information exchanged. And then we'll have a number of body and committees. So the scientific and technical body, which will provide scientific and technical advice, especially on ABMT, so area-based management tools and environmental impact assessments. An access and benefit sharing committee under the marine genetic resource section to provide guidance on how to share the benefits. An implementation and compliance committee to ensure to facilitate implementation and promote compliance with the provisions of the BBNJ agreement, a capacity building and marine technology committee that we have already covered, and a finance committee, which will report on the funding mechanisms. So as you can see, there has been a lot done for the BBNJ Treaty, over 20 years of negotiations, discussions, and organization to ensure that we can effectively protect and conserve marine biodiversity in the high seas and in areas beyond national jurisdiction. And however, the process is not over, let's say. The current challenge now lies within implementation. So we have the treaty has entered into force, and now we need to make sure that everything that is laid out in the treaty actually is practically implemented. And the EU, the European Union, has an important role here as it has really supported the BBNJ Treaty and taken the role of a champion of the treaty, let's say. But now it really also has a responsibility and to practically implement the agreement. And that is where the Copernicus Marine Service enters, as the operational ocean data and the ocean science services that it provides can be tailored to policy, tailored to the BBNJ Treaty, and really support the practical implementation of all of these objectives that we just covered. With that, I will end my presentation. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I believe there's some time for Q&A.
Absolutely. Thank you, Thank you very much for your presentation. We will indeed go to the Q&A session. So let me share my screen again. Okay. So yeah, before we go to the session, I just wanted to give you another opportunity to access the section where you can actually ask your questions. So you can scan this QR code, or we posted the link in the chat as well. So I'll just leave this on for a few seconds in case you wanted to scan it. And this is where we will be collecting questions throughout the session as well. So if there's any question that you'd like to ask, you need to do it from here. Okay, so now let me go to the questions, which we received a few of. So the first question for you, Mai, is how do you envision the future of the treaty that relies on international cooperation, as the UN conventions are not respected by more and more countries?
Yeah, that is a very good question. And that is a question that the stakeholders that work on developing the BBNJ Treaty have addressed in some ways. So in some of these conventions, we need to have a a decision that is taken with everyone agreeing to, for example, establish an MPA. The BBNJ Treaty goes around this, and so they try to take decision based on a consensus. But if there's only one state that does not agree with the decision, there's a way to go around this and establish an MPA, for example. So let's say the BBNJ Treaty is a little bit resilient compared to other UN conventions that are maybe older that didn't plan for these maybe different dynamics, geopolitical priorities. But it does rely on states working together to establish, for example, MPAs, or so there will need some sort of international cooperation, but we can go around countries, just one single country not agreeing to do their part.
Okay, very clear. Thank you. Next question is, I want to build a high seas based fish port. What should I consider which is aligned with BBNJ?
So a high sea based fish port.
Not sure I understand the question actually.
Yeah, I mean, so there's different things maybe that I can say around fish, but so the technical part, I'm not able to give too much information on the technical parts as there's still a lot that needs to be discussed at the Conference of the Party levels. A high sea based fish port, I'm not sure exactly what that entails, but the BBNJ Treaty does not have a specific focus on fish resources, on like fishery resources. It only covers fish when they're used for marine genetic resources, so that takes out a lot of trouble for fisheries, for example. And then for specific for specific cases on a specific project in the high seas, that will have to go through each party, so member states, and then that will be taken up within the BBNJ process between the COP and all the other bodies. I hope that helps.
I'm sure it does. Thank you. Next question is, with underwater noise increasingly recognized as harmful pollution and regulated in parts of Europe, how can effective legislation be extended to countries like Greece, given evidence of its impact on marine biodiversity, even within MPAs?
That is a really good question. It's a very good question. The BBNJ Treaty doesn't necessarily focus on pollution. It focuses on the conservation. So in MPAs, for example, in MPAs, I'm not sure how underwater noise is taken into account right now, except for when there's like closure of like boats can't go into an MPA, or in those cases. I would say that one thing that's important to keep in mind is that the BBNJ Treaty allows for some sort of flexibility and new regulations to be added by the Conference of the Parties, with specific decision-making process with the different parties, to include potential new pollution sources. But I'm not sure about the underwater noise specifically, but I'm sure I can have a look at what on that topic specifically and get back to you, Marine. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. We can add this to the post-event report. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you. What is the timeline for the implementation of the hosting of the treaty?
So the BBNJ Cup will take place. We don't know exactly when right now, but at the end of 2026 or beginning of 2027. It can't be later than that. And then there's a lot of discussions that will happen. But before that, there's some PrepCom meetings. So meetings that prepare the COP so that the first COP is as efficient as possible. And then the idea is to make the treaty as practical as possible as soon as possible.
Okay. How can BBNJ framework be effectively used in data poor regions such as the Indian Ocean? How important is collaboration in this scenario?
It is very important. That's a very good question. So the idea is so this whole capacity building and, well, you don't see my slides anymore, but this whole capacity building and transfer of marine technology, the idea behind it is that there's a better use of global capacity and to really have for example, if we have data, it could be used and shared more widely under the BBNJ process. Is there some way to facilitate that? And the idea of services such as the Copernicus Marine service as well is to ensure that the data is openly accessible and shared to everyone to hopefully address these data poor. Well, it doesn't address this data poor region, but it ensures that the data that is available can be used by the widest range of users. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, how can developing countries benefit from the BBNJ agreement?
So this notion of equity is very central in the BBNJ treaty. And so the idea is that the treaty isn't like a burden to developing countries, but really a way to support them. So, for instance, for the MGR section, or the benefits that arise from marine genetic resources, they're meant to be shared to everyone, including developing countries. Ensure that the non-monetary benefits and the monetary benefits are shared. So the non-monetary benefits, for example, is ensuring that scientists from developing countries can take part in research led by other countries on marine genetic resources. And the monetary benefit part is more a way to make sure that developed states fund also the BBNJ treaty, and that so the idea is that the treaty really benefits developing countries and ensure that everything is more fair, ensure the liberty and the freedom of scientific research, but also make it more fair and more accessible to everyone.
Okay, great. Thank you. How will every country be made accountable to follow up with the treaty and not just remain as paperwork and not applied practically?
Yeah, that is a very good, that's a key challenge of the BBNJ treaty. And so there's this body that I mentioned, the Implementation and Compliance Committee. It will not be a punitive committee. The responsibility also lies within each state, as the treaty is now binding. It is international law, and when a country has ratified it, it has transcribed it in local law. So the country can be held accountable if it doesn't respect the BBNJ treaty. But the idea is that the CUPs really ensure that it does not remain paperwork and it is applied practically. And this is the key challenge now.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I guess we will just take one last question and I will go for the next one on the screen. No, actually, oh yes, thank you. So the question is, what does the BBNJ treaty say about climate change?
So, as I've mentioned before, it says that it will not undermine the work that is led by the UNFCCC, so the UN Convention on Climate Change. And now experts are working on how those treaties interact, how we can find synergies to be as efficient as possible. One topic that is quite important is to develop a network of MPAs and also climate resilient MPAs. So there's definitely a lot of discussions around how the BBNJ treaty and the UNFCCC can interact and the ways to make it more efficient. So the idea is that climate change will be taken into account in the BBNJ treaty and provision and all the endeavors. And the way it will be done specifically is still being developed by experts.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation, Mae, and for answering all these interesting questions. We must keep up with the timing, so we don't have time for more questions, but what we will do is we will send you these questions for you to answer in written form, and we will then make a post-event report available to participants with an answer to those questions. So
Okay,
thank you
sounds
again.
great. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so now we will go to our next speaker, who is Leila Fabre, and Leila is a user support officer at Mercator Ocean, and she's going to give a demonstration of the MyOcean viewer. Hi, Leila.
Hi, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm going to introduce you to the MyOcean Pro Viewer. So this is a tool that is accessible from the Copernicus Marine Service homepage. You just have to click on Ocean Visualization. And here you have our 3 visualization tools: MyOcean Learn for the beginners, MyOcean Lite for intermediate users, and MyOcean Pro for the experts. And today we will explore this one. So let's just click on it. Now we are on a default map. You can see that 2 layers are displayed, the seawater velocity and the seawater potential temperature. On this map, you can move around. You can zoom in and zoom out by scrolling with your mouse. You can change the projection to the North Pole with the button at the top, or change the projection to the South Pole like this. With the bar at the bottom, you can change the date for the date of the data displayed on the map. So right now we are seeing data for the 18th of March, but if I click somewhere else on the map, you can see that the map was updated. And now we are seeing data for the 18th of October, 2025. If you want to choose a date more precisely, you can zoom in on the bar by scrolling with your mouse, or you can use the arrows on your keyboard. The bar on the right works the same way, but for the depths. So right now we are seeing data at the surface level, but if I change the depth level, you can see that the map was updated. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do together is choosing our own layer. And to do that, we just have to click on Add Layer. When you do that, it opens the Copernicus Marine Data Store, in which we have 303 products. They are sorted in some categories: the popular product, the product recently viewed, the new products, the blue ocean products, white ocean products, green ocean products, and the indicators and trends products. On the left, you have all the filters you can use to search for the best product available for your work. In our case, I will focus on the green ocean, and for the variable of interest, I want to select the plankton. I want the data to cover the global ocean. I want daily data, and I want the data to come from a numerical model. We are now down to 3 products. So for each product, you have the product name, the product ID that you can copy by clicking on it. You have the source of the data, the coverage of the data, the spatial resolution, the temporal resolution, and then the main variables present in the product. You can add a product to your favorites by clicking on the star here, and then you will be able to retrieve your favorites in here. If you want to learn more about a product, you just have to click on it. And this opens first the description tab, in which you will be able to read a short overview, some use cases, and at the bottom you have the metadata. Under the description tab, you have the notifications, and this is where you can stay updated on the product status. Sometimes there are maintenance notification or incident notification. So if there is something strange with the product, you might want to check the notification just to be sure that there is no problem with it. In data access, you have the list of the data sets available in the product. You also have their temporal extents. And here you have the 3 services you can use to download data from the product. If you need more information about the product, you can check its user manual, which is a technical document, or its quality information document, which is a scientific document. With the roadmap, you can check the past and future evolutions of a product. And with the DOI at the bottom, you can cite the product. Once you're sure you want to use a product, you can click on Add to Map. First, we have the 2 data sets that are relevant to the plankton, so daily and monthly. I said that I wanted daily data, so I will focus on this one. And sorry. I will add the mass concentration of chlorophyll A in seawater to the map, just like that. And now you can see that we have 3 layers on the map. There is a new feature on the MyOcean Pro Viewer. Now you have the possibility to add your own data to the map so that you can explore your data with the features of the MyOcean Pro Viewer. To add your own data, you just have to click here and then upload a NetCDF file. You have to be careful because your file has to follow the requirements that are explained here. Then you can give a name to your data and just upload them. I'm going to show you an example of data I have uploaded yesterday. So you can go back to add layer. I'm going to clear the filters. You go to personal catalog. And here you can see that I have added this data yesterday. I can just add my data to the map. So this is temperature data. I'm going to zoom out and you can see my data for this area in the map. And I can use the viewer feature to explore my data. Okay, so now we have 4 layers. You have the possibility to hide or to show a layer by clicking on the eye icon, just like that. You can change the layers priority by holding one and putting it above another one, like that. And you can delete a layer by clicking on the cross here. And I'm going to delete the temperatures layer to keep these 2. Okay. For each layer, you have many functionalities. So first, this one I will present later. For this icon, you can retrieve the product's information that we saw just before. With this icon here, you can quickly change for another layer present in the dataset we've selected. So I can go from the chlorophyll to the dissolved oxygen very quickly. With this gear icon, I can customize the layer. I can change its opacity. I can change its style. So right now for the chlorophyll, it's the solid style that is displayed, but I can also add the hatching style like that. With some other layers, there are more styles available. So this is the case for the velocity. Right now, you are seeing the particle style. So you can see the direction of the current in movement. And you can change the color of the particles, for example. If you don't want movement on your map, there is also the vectors style. So now we see the direction of the current with a little arrows that are indicating this information. For a layer, you can change its color like this. You can invert the color map with this button. You can play with the contrast of your map with this button here. Then you can choose the threshold if you want more or less contrast. And you can mask the outliers from a map. So right now on the map, we have data between this value and this maximum value. If I change the maximum value, and then I click on the mask outliers button, you can see that all the values outside of this range were removed from the map for the chlorophyll. And then there is the auto button. So the auto button can be useful when you don't have contrast on your map. I'm going to show you an example. So if I zoom in a lot on the map, you can see that there's not a lot of contrast right now. And if I click on auto, the viewer analyzes what is going on your screen, and it adapts the minimum and maximum values to create contrast. And finally, you have the possibility to enable the log scale with this button. Okay, that's it for the functionalities on the left for now. Now I'm going to show you how you can create geometries directly on the map. So here you have point, lines, areas. This is the buttons that will allow you to create these geometries. Like this. You can see that for each geometry, graphics were automatically created. I'm going to show you that on the graphics, there are more options. So first, you have the possibility to maximize the graphic to see them better. You can add more graph with the button here. Then you choose the layer and the type of graphic you want. You can adjust the axis of a graphic. So if I click here, I have the possibility to change the start or the end date. And if I change the start date, then click on apply, the graphic is automatically updated. Once you're done adjusting the axis of your graph, you might want to export the data to three formats: NetCDF, CSV, or SVG. You can remove a graph with the button here, remove graph. And the last thing I want to show you is that you can compare geometries together. To do that, you just have to hold a graphic and you put it above another one. And then you will have your two geometry. So the line for B and C for the area. And you can see that the data appears on the same graph for the two geometries. If you want to ungroup the geometries, you have the ungroup button here. To close and to remove a geometry, you just have to click on the cross here, like that. If you don't want to draw your geometry directly on the map, you have the possibility to import them with the import button. Geometries can be imported in the well-known text format, in the GeoJSON format, and in the shapefile format. We also have presets geometries available. So for example, I'm just going to select one and import it. So this is a geometry preset for the agency. In import, you can also retrieve the recent geometries that you have imported or created. Under the import button, you have the settings. So this is where you will be able to log in or log out. You can change the language to English or Espanol. You can also change the base map, the way it is displayed. You have several options you can activate to customize your map. So for example, you can show the toponyms or not. You can change the projection here. You can show more statistics in the graphics. You can change the variable units. So there are many possibilities that I would let you explore on your own because I won't have time to show everything during this presentation. Now I'm going to go back here. I wanted to show you how to then download data directly from the MyOcean Pro Viewer. So this is possible with this button right here. So you just have to fill in the different parameters. So the geographic coordinates for the data you want to download. You can either enter the coordinates manually, but you can also use the Define on Map button. So if you click here, you can then select a geometry that was created or imported on the map, but you can also draw directly on the map. And you can see that the geographic coordinates were filled in. You can change the start date and the end date manually or use the As in Map button. I'm going to show you if I change the date with the bar at the bottom and then I click on As in Map. Thus the date was changed here. And for the depth, it worked the same way. With also download, you can download the other variables present in the same data set if you want. And then you have an estimation of the size of the file you're about to download. You just have to click on download. Sometimes you will notice that the size of the data you want to download is too large. I'm going to show you what happens. You will get this message if the data is too large subset, try reducing it or use other download services. So as it is suggested, you either change these parameters to reduce the size of the file, or you use the other download services. So from here, you have access to two other services, the file browser by clicking here. So the file browser is the service that deliver the original data, and the files are uploaded by the producers. So here you have the product ID, the dataset ID. You have to select a year, then a month, and you have all the files present for the months of July here. So one file per day. You have to know that one file will contain the data for the whole geographic area. So in this case, the global ocean, all the variables, and all the depth levels. And this is why sometimes the size of the files can be quite large. If you really want to do a subset, but you don't want to reduce the size of the subset, you can use the Copernicus Marine toolbox. In fact, with the Automate button, these parameters will be transformed into a request that you can use with the toolbox, either on the command line interface or with Python. You will just have to click on copy and then use it with the toolbox. If you don't know about the toolbox, know that we have several articles in our help center that explain everything. But I'm also going to present this tool on Thursday. I will show you the main function of the toolbox. I will show some examples of requests that we can use to download data. And I will show how to use the toolbox from a command line interface and also with Python. So if you are interested by this tool, I recommend you to come to the presentation on Thursday. And that's it for the download features on the MyOcean Pro. Yes, you might want to share your work with others. So here we have the share icon. you have the possibility to create a URL link that will contain all your work. So all the layers, all the geometries you've created or imported, and all the graphics. You just have then to copy the URL. You can create an image. You have to know that the image won't contain the geometries and the graphics though. You can generate a video in the MP4 or GIF format. You can choose the start date, the end date, the duration of the video, and so on. And finally, you can create an link if you want to include the MyOcean Pro viewer in your website, for example. If you plan on using the MyOcean Pro viewer regularly, I recommend you to check this icon here, click here, because you will see all the shortcuts available. So it can be pretty useful sometimes. For example, one that I use very often is the Z letter on my computer because it removes all the windows and you can see your screen more clearly. And finally, by clicking here, and then if you go to help, you are in our help center. If you have a question, for example, about the MyOcean Pro viewer, you can just type in MyOcean Pro and you have this article, Introduction to MyOcean Pro viewer. In this article, you will find all the information I gave you during this presentation. And you even have a video, a tutorial video, if you need help with this tool. If you don't find your answers in the articles, you can always click on messages and then ask a question. First, you will be talking with Blue, our AI chatbot, but you can ask to talk to a human agent if its answers are not satisfying, and Blue will pass the conversation to us. Okay, I'm done with the presentation now. Thank you for your attention. And if you have a question, do not hesitate. I will try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila. A very interesting demonstration of this tool that is actually a great tool to visualize data before downloading it, and in this context, especially biogeochemical data made available by the Copernicus Marine Service. So we received some questions for you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Well, I guess the first question, you basically answered it with your demonstration. What exactly do these tools help marine experts with? I think we just answered this question, but if there's anything you'd like to add.
It helps them observe the data with their study, with their work. There are many ways you can use these tools to work. This was just a demonstration of the feature, but I think that if you have an idea in your mind of what you want to do, you know how these tools can help. There are many, many data that I couldn't show. I said that there was 300 products, so that's a lot of data that can be used.
Yes, thank you. Next question is, can Copernicus Marine monitor shorelines with 3 to 4 meters precision? My organization wants to replicate Spain's mascot project in Italy using subpixel analysis on high resolution imagery. Does a specific tool exist for this high accuracy displacement tracking over time?
I'm not sure there is a 3-4 meter precision, but I would have to check with my colleagues or on the data store. But I recommend you to contact us on the help support, and we will analyze your request and search for data if there is some.
I think we have a new global coastal product that is a satellite-derived bathymetry product,
Okay.
and it uses Sentinel-2 data. But the the spatial resolution is not 3 to 4 meters. It's approximately 100-meter resolution. So maybe you can have a look at this one, but I think we would need to have more information on what you're trying to do exactly. So yeah, as Leila said, maybe ask this question to Blue, the AI agent.
I see the product. Yes, it's 100 meter, not 3-4 meters.
Yeah. This is a very high resolution.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely go to the chatbot and ask the question. I'm sure someone will be able to help with this request. Okay, next question is the MyOcean Pro free and open access for the future?
Yes, it's supposed to stay free and open access. You just have to have an account and to log in if you want to download data from the MyOcean Pro viewer.
Okay. Could you please suggest how can blue, green, and white ocean data sets be integrated to support ecosystem-based decision making under the BBNJ Treaty, particularly for cumulative impact assessments and the designation of marine protected areas? I think this is a question that we might want to direct to Mae or anyone else at the Copernicus Marine Service who would be able to answer this question. I think there's a high number of ways this could be done, but I think this is a question we'll answer in the post-event report. Next question is, how can I monitor bluefin tuna populations with this tool?
I'm not supposed to give scientific help, so I'm not sure how you can do that, but we have many variables that could help. Maybe the salinity, maybe the nutrients, all the plankton variable we have. I'm more of a technical support, so I can't really help you with that. But if you contact us through the help support, maybe we can try to help you on that.
Yeah, I guess this is a question that requires some more precision as well to be able to support you in the best way. Okay, thank you. And the next question is, I'm a regular user of Copernicus Marine and worked for the MPAs in Bangladesh with it. I had trouble with the timeline of the data, for example, 1997 to 2020, 2021 to 2025, which I needed merged all the data sets all together. Somehow, is there any way to get them together in one NetCDF?
Okay, so I don't know exactly which product you've used, but first I would recommend you to use a multi-year product to have all the data together. But if you've used a multi-year product, but you saw that there was no possibility to get all the years together, there is no tool in our services that can help you merge the data set together. You will have to do some post-processing with XRA, for example, to merge them together. Actually, in our help center, I'm pretty sure we have some examples that show examples on how to merge the data together. You can type in maybe merging, and you will find the examples.
Okay, thank you. And last question we will take for today, because time is up, is how do I extract satellite wave parameters, such as significant wave height, wave period, and direction at a given location from MyOcean viewer?
This is you just have to find the product, and then this is what I showed during the presentation. You choose the right layer. You either download from a point in the CSV or NetCDF format, but you can use the button at the left, if you remember, to download a subset of the data. And then at a given location, maybe you want to enter your precise location but manually. So you can do that with the, you go to import and then you choose well-known text. And this is the only way for now to enter precise location to download data. I know that
Do you
there
want
is...
to quickly show it on
yes,
the
maybe.
screen, maybe? I will stop sharing my screen.
Yes.
Maybe easier to show.
Wait, I'm going to, okay. So if you go in import and then in well-known text, you will be able to write precise coordinates to download data. For now, this is the only way you can enter precise coordinates. You can't do that here. If you write your coordinates here, it won't create a shape or a point on the MyOcean previewer. But this is a feature that was requested by many users, and it is supposed to be implemented in the viewer in the future.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Leila, for the demonstration and for answering these questions. Just a note that we will be sharing the link to the replay with participants later on. So if you want to have another look at what Leila showed today, you definitely can do that later on. So thanks again for your participation, and we'll see you on Thursday with the demonstration of the toolbox.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will now take a short break for approximately 10 minutes. And while we go on a break, you will get the opportunity to answer a question that is, what is your main area of expertise? If you'd like to do this, you just need to go to the Q&A section and you'll see that there's a poll on this. And this allows us to know what you're working on. So we will see you back at 11:15, so in a bit more than 5 minutes. So thank you for taking part until now, and we'll see you soon. Welcome back, everyone. So I see that we have a lot of different expertise from people attending the webinar today. A lot of people work in environmental management, physical oceanography, biodiversity. So thank you for sharing this with us. It's really nice to see. I will now go to the next part of the training. And I'm just taking my time to let people come back from the break. But the next presentation will be from Olivia Foni, who is the NECCTON project manager at Mercator Ocean. She couldn't be with us today, but we thought that talking about NECCTON today would be really relevant, as the overall objective of NECCTON is to enable Copernicus Marine to deliver products that inform marine biodiversity conservation and food resources management by fusing innovative ocean ecosystem models and new data. So what we did is Olivia recorded a video for today. So I will play this video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send them in the Q&A section. We won't be able to answer them today, but we will definitely send them to Olivia after today, and she'll be happy to answer all these questions. So let me share my screen and I'll let you hear from Olivia about the NECCTON project.
Hello everyone, my name is Olivia Foni. I'm a project officer in Mercator Ocean, and today I will give you a quick overview of the NECCTON project. So NECCTON is a Horizon Europe project that contributes to the Copernicus Marine Service Evolution. It's also endorsed by the UN Ocean Decade, and it's part of the Marine Life 2030 program. So here are some key facts about the project. First of all, NECCTON focuses specifically on marine ecosystems and biogeochemistry data. The project runs over 4 years. It started back in January 2023, and we are currently in its final year since it will be concluded in December 2026. The project is coordinated by Stefano Chiavata, who is a senior researcher in ecosystem modeling here in Mercator Ocean. In total, we are 23 partners from across Europe involved in the project, with a total budget of 10 million euros. So the overall objective of NECCTON is to enable Copernicus Marine to deliver products to better inform marine biodiversity conservation and food resource management. So this will be achieved by combining innovative ocean ecosystem models with new data prediction systems. The project also contributes to 3 of the 10 Ocean Decade challenges, which are protect and restore marine ecosystem and biodiversity, sustainably feed the global population, and finally unlock ocean-based solutions to climate change. So currently, Copernicus Marine mainly provides products related to ocean physics. In terms of biogeochemistry, the service currently covers mostly the lower trophic levels, such as plankton, for instance. After NECCTON, Copernicus Marine will be able to improve the modeling of biological products, provide new data sets on the higher trophic levels, on the benthic habitats, and marine ecosystem pollution. It will also exploit new satellite and in-situ observations. In addition, these new and improved products will be projected under climate change scenarios to better assess the future impacts on marine ecosystem. So the main outputs of NECCTON are these new products. In total, the NECCTON partners has produced 27 thematic variables, which are divided into 4 main categories. So these categories are the lower trophic levels, like plankton biomass or organic matter, the benthic environment, like mussels or seagrass, and the higher trophic levels, such as distribution of fishes and marine mammals, including apex predators like tunas, for instance. And finally, pollutants and stresses, such as microplastic or climate change indexes. These variables have been developed for 7 marine regions, which are similar to those covered by Copernicus Marine. So there is global ocean at first, then IBI, so Iberian Biscay Island region, the Mediterranean Sea, North Wales Shelf, Baltic Sea, Black Sea, and the Arctic Ocean. So all these products are model outputs. So they are all obtained with numeric models. Some of them were calibrated and validated using satellite and in-situ observation, as well as some artificial intelligence methods. These products were co-designed and evaluated with stakeholders through 13 case studies. So the case studies are grouped into 2 main themes: the biodiversity conservation and fisheries management. These case studies address a wide range of practical issues and also create opportunities for direct interaction between scientists and stakeholders. As you can see from the logos here, the stakeholders involved are very diverse. It goes from regional governments such as the Azores to international organizations like IUCN or ICES, or also NGOs. So these case studies serve as practical frameworks for stakeholders' engagement, as they are based on real-world challenge. Some examples include the monitoring and defining marine protected areas, assess pollution impact in aquaculture, or monitor marine mammals, for instance. Through this approach, NECCTON products are really co-developed, tested, and assessed, ensuring that they are not only scientifically robust, but also adapted to operational needs. So to allow everyone to explore the NECCTON data, we have recently launched the NECCTON Ocean Viewer. You can access this by entering this address in your browser, which is data.necton.eu. The user can browse the catalog and explore all the NECCTON products, which are organized by region and thematic category. For those who are already familiar with the Copernicus MyOcean Pro Viewer, you will see that the NECCTON Viewer is built on the same framework, making it very intuitive and easy to use. So user can explore the catalog, then overlay multiple layers, explore time series, and also analyze vertical profiles with depth, for instance. All NECCTON data are also free and openly available for download, so users simply need to log in with their Copernicus credentials or create new credentials, and they can then download all the datasets they need. So if you'd like to learn more about NECCTON, you can visit our website, which is available here through the QR code that I displayed, and as well as through, for sure, our social media channels. We are also organizing soon training sessions on the NECCTON products. So these trainings will explain how the products are computed, their potential applications, and how to access and use them. The first training session will take place at the end of April, and registration should open very soon in the coming weeks. So feel free to follow NECCTON on LinkedIn, since we will publish the link to registration there. So unfortunately, I couldn't be here today to present, but please feel free to send me any question that you may have, and I will be happy to respond by email. Thank you very much for your attention.
So I hope you can hear me and see me. Now, yeah, as you heard, we had this little presentation, this little video, and I hope that if you have any questions, you will ask them in our Slido, so we can address them to our speaker. And now we'll move to our next presentation, which is going to be by Anna Teruzzi, who is a researcher at National Institute of Oceanography and Applied Geophysics. And Anna, you here? Yes,
I'm here.
okay.
Okay.
Yes, I can see you and hear you, and yeah, you can share your slide.
Okay, I'm going. Okay, thank you for having me here today, and I'm going to present how we use a Copernicus Marine product to investigate this anomalous 2022 deep water formation and intense phytoplankton bloom event. So just to look where we are here in the Mediterranean Sea, which is a mid-latitude basin, a semi-enclosed basin with a nearly oligotrophic trophic condition. So this is a nearly oligotrophic basin, but not without productivity. And here in this map that has been extracted by the Copernicus Marine Ocean Viewer, we can see that there are spots of productivity. This is a map of primary production as produced by a model for today, the 17th of March. And we have a spot of productivity in the Mediterranean Sea that are linked to the seasonal succession, the seasonal series of mixing and stratification events. So in our Mediterranean Sea, in this basin, we have that usually nutrients are confined in the deeper layers. So in part of the layer of the water column that is quite far from the surface. But during mixing events, during winter, due to the cooling of the sea surface and the change in density that occurs during winter, we have that part of these nutrients are transferred to the surface, where they can be used by phytoplankton to bloom. During summer, we have an opposite conditions where stratification occurs and nutrients are still confined to the deeper layer. And this is what occurs during winter. We have nutrients that are transferred, are moved toward the surface layer bloom, so increase in phytoplankton concentration and of course, also of chlorophyll, that is a proxy of phytoplankton concentration. So in this case, the bloom, the higher concentration of chlorophyll occurs close to the surface, where we have both light and nutrients that are moved from the bottom to the surface. During summer, we have an opposite condition where light coming from the surface, but nutrients are confined to the bottom, and so chlorophyll maximum are in a deeper layer that is called the deeper chlorophyll maximum. So this seasonality, this sequence of seasonal events occurs in different areas of the Mediterranean Sea. And one of these is the eastern part of the Mediterranean, here close to the Cretan island, where we have a succession of, and here we can see it larger, a succession of chlorophyll bloom at the surface, followed by minima during summer. And we noticed it in 2022, a peak of a bloom into this area of the Levantine Sea. And we started to investigate this by looking at the information and process chain that affect the bloom during winter in the Mediterranean Sea, winter or early spring. And so we had to look at atmospheric conditions and how they are related to physical ocean, and finally to the marine biogeochemistry. And how we did investigate this through both 3D, three-dimensional modeling products and observations. And most of them came from the Copernicus Marine service. In particular, we looked at both modeling and satellite observation of biogeochemistry, in particular the marine biogeochemistry modeling as produced by OGS itself for near real-time and multi-annual reanalysis, so 2 products of the Copernicus Marine service, plus the satellite concentration of chlorophyll. Then we look at also have 2 products, the near real-time and multi-annual reanalysis of the ocean physical modeling, and also at satellite observation of sea surface temperature. And combined to this, we also look at the ECMWF products of modeling of the atmospheric conditions. And so using all these products and all this information, we arrived to build an information, a knowledge of these particular events. And just to give you an idea of the event, this is very small, but this is the Cretan Islands. Here we can see it a bit larger. So the area of the events is this one. And we can see here the concentration of chlorophyll as it evolved during the last part of March, first part of April in 2022, as reproduced by the forecast modeling, and how estimated by satellite observations. So here we can see this orange line, here is bigger, where this orange line, where we can see that this area can be identified. This is the area of the event that we identified through the modeling products. And here in purple, very small, but can be seen in also this map, is the typical area of the event during these days of April and March. So we can compare the 2 products, and we can see that we have a quite high concentration of chlorophyll as predicted by the modeling that can be seen also, even if a bit different days, also by the satellite observations. Here the brown is the cloud coverage, so the benefit of having this modeling product is that we have information also where satellite cannot observe directly the chlorophyll concentration. But how we defined this 2022 event area, we used the modeling thanks to this three-dimensional and temporal coverage. And we used an approach as defined by Hobday and colleagues in 2016, where we took as a reference the chlorophyll 99th percentile climatology for each of these points in this area of the Levantine Basin. And on top of this, we computed the concentration of chlorophyll during 2022, especially between the 20th of March and the 30th of April, and we calculated the maximum intensity. And this area was identified as the area where this maximum intensity, so the maximum difference with respect to climatology, was higher than a certain threshold defined as the 80 percentile of the climatology in this area. So once we defined this area of the event in 2022, so the area where the chlorophyll concentration at surface was particularly higher with respect to the climatology, we arrived to define a lot of quantities, a lot of variables in this area and their temporal evolution during the late spring, the early spring, late winter in 2022. And all of this came from the products that I showed you before in the table. So a lot of them came from the Copernicus Marine Service products. And we can start to investigate in the next slides all these plots, all this information, looking at the process chain that we were able to investigate thanks to all these products, starting from the atmospheric conditions that occurred before the phytoplankton bloom peak that was placed at the beginning of April, 9 of April. And we can observe at the beginning the atmospheric sea surface temperature, sea surface temperature, where we can observe some minima of atmospheric temperature before the events, in particular at the end of January and also during March. And these are documented cold spells that were observed in this season, in this year, and were reported also in news during 2022. That affected on its turn the sea surface temperature that here is shown as observed by satellite in yellow. This dashed line is the observed sea surface temperature by satellite during 2022, and it is compared to the climatology of the sea surface temperature, and we can see that the observations from satellite shows a nearly persistent negative anomaly with respect to the climatology. And if we look at the blue line, that is the sea surface temperature as reproduced, as simulated by the modeling, we can see that this negative anomaly is even larger in the modeling. So we have an SST that is even lower. And looking at the sea surface temperature anomaly during these days, so starting from March, the 1st of March to the 24th of March, so in this part of the year that was preliminary to the peak of the chlorophyll, we can see that this anomaly is mainly negative, not only in the area of the event, but it is quite spread, it is quite diffused across the subbasin we are considering. And we can go further and see on what happened along the water column before the events of the peak bloom. And in particular, we can look at the mixed layer depth that is provided by the modeling products of Copernicus Marine. And here we can see that we have a quite deeper bloom. So we have on the vertical axis, we have the depth of the mixed layer depth, and we can see that during February, but also March, until the end of March, we have a quite large deepening of the mixed layer. So this intense deepening is nearly coincident with the area of the event, as we can see from the maps here that are starting from the 1st of March to the 24th of March. But we can also look at the effect that we have of this deepening of the mixed layer on the phosphate. So on the distribution of one of the main nutrients that are used by the phytoplankton in the event in the area. And this can be seen looking at the phosphocline depth. This is this yellow line that is compared with its climatology. its climatology. So these vertical bars represents the climatology of the phosphocline depth. And we can see that we have deepening of the phosphocline in February, but a strong, very strong deepening we have during March, where this phosphocline depth is larger than its 99th percentile. And after this, the stratification occurs, as we can see from the mixed layer depth, and also the phosphocline depth go close to the surface. And how does this had impact on the biogeochemistry, on the low trophic web in the Mediterranean Sea in this area in this year? We can look at several variables. In particular, we look at the modeling variables obtained from the Copernicus Marine product, in particular chlorophyll, primary production, and phosphate concentration. All of these compared with respect to their climatology. So the bars represents the percentile of the climatology calculated on a multi-annual simulation of nearly 20 years. And the continuous line represents the event into the 2022. So we have here the phosphocline depth that we already seen, and we can see that after the mixed layer depth event, the deeper convection event, we have a stratification, so a shallowing of the phosphocline. And just after this stratification, there's a rapid onset of the bloom with a peak on the 9th of April, so a chlorophyll bloom that is a proxy of the phytoplankton bloom. And associated to this, we have a consumption of phosphate concentration represented here. So we can see that from values quite higher with respect to the climatology, the phosphate is rapidly consumed by the phytoplankton that is growing here. And associated with this chlorophyll bloom, we also have a primary production that is quite larger as a strong peak during the phytoplankton bloom. And this peak is very relevant. It is larger than the climatology, than the 99th percentile of the climatology, inducing a 35% higher primary productivity in an area that is not very large, but is at least 1.4 or 1.5% of the entire Mediterranean subbasin. And just to go to some final remarks and some conclusion, all this work was part of a publication that has been published into the State of the Planet, so the Ocean State Report number 8, and this is a publication that shows everything that I showed you today. But the main message is that we used Copernicus Marine products to detect and characterize the dynamics of a specific event in a specific year, both using modeling products but also observation products. We also can relate this event in a more larger framework, considering, for instance, the impacts of the higher trophic level related to primary productivity. It is documented, for instance, by Pirodi and co-authors of 2017 that local productivity events of the low trophic web, primary productivity events in the low trophic web are a significant indicator and proxy of a higher trophic level productivity, so on the larger ecosystem impacts. Moreover, there are connections between these events and other atmospheric conditions. For instance, we can investigate teleconnection indices and their relation with these specific cooling events during the winter 2022. But also, this event can be framed into the recent analysis of climate change impact on Mediterranean trends. It has been verified that there are trends into larger stratification, stronger stratification. These events place itself in a different way. So a single event with a large mixing that is opposite to the stratification that is trending, it's more recently occurring into the Mediterranean Sea. And I'm finished. And I thank you for your attention and will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, I think we got some questions for you. Also, for participants, don't hesitate to um, put more of your questions because maybe you didn't have time during the presentation because you were too focused. So, first question is how might marine heat waves have influenced your results given that the Eastern Cretan Sea has been identified as a hotspot in the past decade? And how do you think conditions may have changed following the El Nino summer of 2024?
Yes, thank you for the question. Indeed, the hotspots for marine heat waves, the marine heat waves are nearly concentrated during summer. This was a winter event, so maybe it is a specific event of this year that should be more framed into the trends of the Mediterranean Sea. There are works from colleagues that also studied chlorophyll, the trends of chlorophyll blooms into the area, the entire Mediterranean Sea, but that showed that specifically in the Cretan Sea, there are areas where the chlorophyll bloom seems to begin earlier and to last more. But should be, of course, better investigated in these terms. But of course, the Mediterranean Sea, it has been verified that there's going to a larger stratification, but maybe there will be also specific events that will bring more intense bloom, but in very specific condition and very defined periods. But this has to be investigated. And I'm not sure about the impact of El Nino summer of 2024, since we did not already study or investigated these specific aspects.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, given the growing interest in high latitude activities, how can white ocean data support climate smart environmental impact assessments and marine protected areas under BBNG in polar and subpolar regions? I don't know
I
if you
don't know
have,
if I'm the
yeah, I
right
mean,
person
white
to
ocean.
reply to this question, but of course, I think that I'm not I'm not aware about anything about this.
Yeah, I mean, white ocean data is not exactly
Yes, it's
the
not
focus of
specific
your
for
work. Yeah,
me. Yes.
I guess it's more a general question. We will, of course, note it for later, and maybe some other speaker will answer that question. And we do not have more for now. Well, dear participants, if you still have some questions, please don't hesitate. We'll maybe stay for a couple of minutes just to make sure that there are no questions left. And then we'll move on to the next presentation then. But of course, if we receive more questions, a bit too late for you, Anna, we
Yes.
will send them to
Just
you.
a small comment, if I can. If
Yeah.
anybody is aware of a specific high trophic effect, so for instance, on fishing in the eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea in the years or periods past these 2022 winter spring events, feel free to contact me and signal and suggest me further collaboration on this topic.
Great. So yeah, we don't have questions for now. I think we can move to next presentation. And again, if we have more questions, we will send them to Anna for later. So now, then thank you, Anna, again. And now it's time for Lara to present her work on developing regional digital twins for marine restoration in a CLIMAREST project. So Lara, we can see you.
Great, and then I will share my screen. All right, everyone. Hello, my name is Lara Vilitz. I am from Sintef Ocean, located in Trondheim, Norway, and I'm going to be talking about some outputs from the CLIMAREST project, and specifically on our marine restoration toolbox, and more specifically even than that, some services that we created using Copernicus Marine services. So first of all, what was the CLIMAREST project? It was a very large MyOcean funded project that just ended at the end of last year. And the focus of this project was really about demonstrating, replicating, and upscaling large-scale solutions for marine restoration. And this was led by my colleague here at CNTF Ocean, coordinator. And the motivation behind this project partially was it was under deliberation with the EU, and then finally the EU Nature Restoration Regulation was put in force in June of 2024, I believe. So there was some movement, and then there's now been this big push to start building out marine restoration projects throughout Europe. And each country is setting their own kind of goals, and we are trying to help these countries and help different municipalities and help restoration practitioners reach these goals. And this was, again, a large project with 18 main partners, and we tried to not only do marine restoration activities, which I'll discuss in a moment, in the field, but also replicate our approaches in which we had 11 replication partners as part of. So this is just a nice graphical overview. In the dark blue, we have our main restoration activities where we try to restore different habitats or systems and take different approaches. And in the light blue, you see these replication areas where we try to replicate and upscale these approaches. We had coverage across Europe, going from Arctic fjords in Norway all the way up in Svalbard. And our replication area was in Sweden. We were looking at restoring seagrass meadows, oyster bed reefs in France, soft bottom ecosystems, and rocky bottom. And a large or a significant output of this project was the Marine Restoration Toolbox, and that has two main components. That is the virtual research environment, which I will discuss more, and a website which is now taken up by the Society for Ecological Restoration as part of their Restoration Resource Center. So, and I've provided the links to organizers so you can navigate, and I'll provide a QR code too later for those of you that want to browse the website. Part of this project was really about longevity. So we had both parts of the toolbox will be maintained in the long term and built off of hopefully in future projects. And we have a commitment from the Society for Ecological Restoration, for example, to keep the website up. And we have the Marine Restoration Working Group that's part of SARE Europe. And now they're moving to being international to have further work on the website and more information, more use cases, etc. And from the virtual research environment, that's hosted by Blue Cloud 2026, which is now going to be part of an EOSC, the EU Open Science Cloud DTO node. So I will go into that because that was probably a lot to take in, and we'll break it down a little bit more. What is the Marine Restoration Toolbox, essentially? So as I mentioned, there's two elements: the website, where you have a QR code here if you want to go and look at that. That's where we have more kind of qualitative information. We have general information on marine restoration, breaking it down following different frameworks provided by SARE and the UN. We also have the virtual research environment, which I mentioned, where you can actually interact with a series of tools. And we've tried to make them as interactive as possible. Our user base, which I'll talk about, we worked with from day one to try to understand their needs and make things that match what they need. And we really connected that to EU open platforms, including Copernicus, of course. And we also showcase data from OBIS, and we have some DTO demonstrators, digital twins of the ocean demonstrators, which I will also discuss. And we showcase also some data and how to pull data and use data from EMONNet. Specifically EMONNet biology and human activities. If you want to read more about this, we have a publication out in the International Journal of Data Science and Analytics. So this details more our motivation behind developing the toolbox, as well as some kind of learning lessons we had for making our data fair, and also a detailed overview of some of the tools and more information on access. And again, this is a QR code if you want to access the website. So I mentioned our user base and how we went about creating this large-scale toolbox for marine restoration practitioners is we just started with these kind of mapping interviews where we tried to understand who our users were and tried to co-design this toolbox with them. So we ended up making these kind of fake profiles that kind of assimilated all this information from our interviews. So one of our main target users is a restoration practitioner, and we made this profile for quote unquote Sally, who is one of our users, and we mapped her kind of background, challenges, and wishes and tried to design the toolbox around that. And so from these first mapping interviews, then we iterated with the community, going out and working closely with our consortia, with the marine restoration practitioners in our group, but also outside. So on the top, you can see I was leading a session on practical use of the toolbox at a meeting in Cyprus. We also were in Ireland meeting with restoration practitioners and local municipalities, discussing and starting to have some play around sessions where people could look at some of the tools and see what worked for them and what didn't work for them. And we adapted according to their feedback. You can also see a nice picture from the field where we're going out and looking at some of the restoration, one of the restoration areas in Ireland, and seeing some seagrass, which was delightful. Some more information on the marine restoration toolbox is some things that it is and isn't. So it's a prototype. We reached TRL level 5, I believe. That was our target, and we actually went beyond that in some aspects. But it is still a prototype. It's not perfect, and a lot of the things are experimental, or they're not fully operational, although people can take them on and build off of them, and we've tried to make it as open and transparent as possible. That was part of that integration into Blue Cloud, and further, hopefully in the future, also into the EOSC DTO node. So we also have demonstrators in the VRE, so users can actually experiment with the approaches, the code data. There are 2 forms which I'll show. So there is we have code available in Jupyter Notebooks where people can adapt it to their own cases. We also have lightweight apps where people can just look at the outputs for non-technical users. We also do not encompass all projects and systems, of course. We were limited to the data and the cases that we had within CLIMAREST, but we really want to extend this. There are some obvious gaps, for example, coral reef restoration, where there's obviously a need for some tools and code-based approaches for monitoring the implementation. So Blue Cloud, very briefly, for those of you that don't know it, I'm sure that many people in this webinar have heard of it, is part of this kind of larger landscape of infrastructure provided by the EU for working with ocean data. It is one of the main elements of it are these virtual research environments and virtual labs. And basically what Blue Cloud provides is a cloud computing platform where users can freely use and access code and services. That's all basically containerized to different services. So it might be a Jupyter Notebook, it might be an R Shiny app, it might be a Streamlit app, things like that. You do need a login, so there is that small barrier. But once you access and you register for our lab, you can use all the services freely. And another great thing about Blue Cloud is it is committed to hosting our VRE into the long term, so our products won't die with the end of the project. Another thing that we've put in an application to try to integrate our services into the EOSC catalog of services to further make our services available into the long term and have some funding to provide even more documentation and more exposure in different open science events. So the Marine Restoration Lab offerings and services. So I have kind of main categories laid out here. We have the digital twin demonstrators, and how we define digital twins here for marine restoration is we are integrating subject matter expertise mostly from our consortia members with relevant data and models. So that might be in situ data, it might be data that we access through Copernicus Marine Services. We provide what if scenarios. These are generally climate what if scenarios provided by Met Norway. We also have habitat-specific protocol development surveys. These are lightweight web applications built in Streamlit where people can just click through a decision tree-like guide or go through a survey with different science-backed resources to help users develop scientifically backed protocols for restoring different ecosystems. We also have a demonstrator for how to do AI image analysis from ROV images, so detecting anthropogenic debris. And that also showcases a Squidle Plus platform for tagging images and doing AI image detection, computer vision kind of approaches. We also have a multi-criteria area selection tool, which is building off of systematic conservation planning kind of tools and principles and extending them to kind of address the question, how can we optimize area selection for marine restoration for different kinds of goals? So for example, if you're a municipality that has a goal of restoring 20% of your seagrass, trying to give you some information on how to do that and how to implement that and how to start that conversation, especially with stakeholders to develop that. And each of our tools is also not only available on the VRE, but we have a page on the website detailing and providing more information also for non-technical users to have some information and be able to understand the tools, even if they are not going to go into the VRE and access them. They have some information on what these tools are and what they can provide to people for hopefully for inspiration as well. Now I will go into the VRE. So just to orient ourselves again in this in our toolbox, what I'm really talking about here is this VRE element. So I'm putting aside the website for a moment, even though it's connected. We have these pages for each of the kinds of tools and services we have, but we're focusing on accessing and looking at the VRE. So some key information about it. It was made openly available in October 2025. Just in advance of SER's large international conference. We have over 100 registered users and there's over 12 services available. And again, I want to mention that we have plans to integrate it hopefully into the EOS catalog of services and into Edito's infrastructure for those of you that have heard of that. So I'm just going to go rapid fire and then through and give some information on the services, and then I'll showcase some of them actually going into the VRE for everyone. So the digital twin demonstrators, they're the part that is interactive for people that they can adopt is built using Jupyter notebooks. We combine relevant local and global data. So some in situ data collected in the project and other data sources that we access that were open. And we did some data integration and assimilation, some kinds of translation work in some cases where data was in the local language. We have interactive widgets for the data and model outputs. We, again, provide these climate what-if scenarios, and we provide a lot of contextual information so users can interpret these data and model outputs. On top of that, we have these digital twin user interfaces. This was a product of the development of these was essentially a product of this co-design process where I showcased these Jupyter notebooks, and many users felt it was too technical. The just idea of looking at code was overwhelming. So we decided, okay, let's just come up with a very lightweight front end for people that they can click through and see some of and interact with the data and model outputs. It's less flexible, of course, because you can't adapt it nearly as easily, but it's something where people can get an idea of some flavor of the service. This is, again, for non-technical users, and the data is preloaded, and users are also directed and given information in the want to dive deeper sections for the Jupyter Hub service and information on the GitLab, so people can look at all the code. So everything is still fully transparent. I just wanted to, as this is a Copernicus webinar, mention how we specifically leveraged Copernicus Marine services. We really aim to increase exposure of users to CMEM services because we really think they're great. We tried to, in the notebooks and in the front ends and the Streamlit apps, we provided information on how to access the services, down to how to load your credentials, how to access different data sets, how to slice and dice them and visualize them. So we try to really give that detailed documentation for non-technical users or people that might be technical, but they might not have a lot of experience working with these kinds of code-based approaches. And we also, I wanted to mention, and I'll show later, we showcase some data sets, for example, for estimating area extent of seagrass meadows using Sentinel-2 data. So that's just an example. Very quickly again, I want to mention these habitat-specific protocol development tools. So the one on the right, for example, I think this is for This is for oyster bed reefs, and this kind of click through where people can say, yes, no, I have this information, I don't have this information, and be given some guidance in the direction to go. And they have, again, this decision tree-like structure that's based on a paper that's cited across the tools. That's one version of it. Another version is having just basically a survey. People can answer questions and refer to literature. The AI image detection demonstrator, here's some screenshots from it, but you can also access this in the VRE. Both there's a Jupyter Lab, a Jupyter Hub, or Jupyter Jupyter notebook on this, and there is also a front end where people can interact with this. But basically, we have a full data set that we've taken up in Avensjord, up in Svalbard, and people can see tagged images. All the images are tagged, but you can play around with the pre-built AI image detection services, and also you can estimate the size of different anthropogenic debris. So using this segment anything model, and look at different models and different approaches and play around with that. Also, I want to mention this spatial prioritization demo. We have a low data and high data example of how to use systematic conservation planning principles for marine restoration again. And that's to showcase also what kinds of data you need. So I would really encourage people to check that out as well. It's an R-Shiny app, so we have all the data available. We have technical information, how to implement the RESTAPAR framework, which is the framework we chose for showcasing, methodological information on systematic conservation planning principles, guidance for the users how to use the app, and people can run this optimization criteria themselves and decide what are kind of constraints on the restoration action. For example, activity from fishers or vessel traffic, things like that, and then rerun this optimizer. And the idea here is that it's a tool to help people begin the conversation of what area to select for restoration, for marine restoration, and to begin this conversation with local stakeholders. Great. Now I'm going to move to Blue Cloud. So this is what hopefully, can you see, sorry, Daria, can you see the screen still?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, you can see the restoration,
Yeah,
okay, wonderful. Okay, so this is what the front page essentially looks like. You'll see a number of things. You can start with the Jupyter Hub service here. Then you'll be asked to select a server. So then all the packages for running that service are already preloaded. So then you can just run each code cell. We have these protocol development tools that I mentioned. They're all organized here, and then different applications. For example, this multi-criteria area selection tool that I showcased for optimizing area selection. And we have these different digital twin demonstrators. There are some different approaches taken by different groups, so you can play around with that. And the image detection demonstrator is up here. So for those of you, I'm sure everyone here has seen a Jupyter notebook before, but essentially this is what it looks like. You can just run the code cells as usual. We try to give a lot of information to guide users to understand even what they're loading, to understand what software packages they're using, for those that might not be very familiar with code-based approaches. And again, we have these interactive widgets all built in. Now I've really zoomed out, unfortunately, but that's basically the data point of where Longyearbyen is, where we implemented a restoration action. And again, we just provide a lot of different data and information, contextual information, and try to take this data-driven storytelling approach to developing the digital twins. This is one of the one of the protocol development tools. This is for native oyster restoration. As I mentioned, this decision tree-like approach, and people can go through and select and say, for example, do I have historical information? No, then you cannot do this. Yes, you get some information on how to conduct baseline surveys, all provided by our experts from the consortia. This is the multi-criteria area selection demonstrator. Again, this is some information, technical information on how to do this yourself for your own area, and some kind of guidance from when we implemented this. Very technical information, the data viewer where people can actually look around at the kinds of data we have, which is also including some observations from divers, from citizen scientists, which I think is pretty cool. And again, you can basically simulate selecting different kinds of habitats or systems you want to restore, and different restraints or constraints on that. Maybe ports are a problem and vessel traffic. You can run the optimization criteria and get an output of a map, which may or may not load. Here we go. Here it is. And the red are the constraints, and green is historic seagrass extent, and blue is the area that is the conversation starter for where to implement your restoration action. And very finally, these are one of the digital twin front ends that I mentioned. This is for seagrass. So again, the storytelling-like approach, we tried to break this down from the notebook and just turn it into this lightweight web application. One of the challenges for seagrass restoration is eutrophication. So here we give some information on that, some interactive elements. So where we actually were planting seagrass was in Tralee Bay. There's some sewage outflows. This is information, this is data pulled from EMODNet. But then we have some wonderful data pulled from Copernicus, and again, tried to provide all the information so people can use the toolkit and understand how to pull the data themselves. And then we visualize it, and you can look at different sources of eutrophication. This is from a NEMO model, and it's low resolution. So Tralee Bay looks like it's inside Ireland, which it's not, but it's what we had. So we didn't have a high resolution local model, but this was great to show to get people thinking about what kinds of data they need and need to consider when implementing restoration action. So that's all I have for today.
Okay, great. Sorry. Thank you. It was a very nice presentation. You covered a lot of details. We have some questions. And again, I invite the participants to ask questions if you want to. So the first question is, as large-scale marine restoration solutions move from demonstration to replication, how can tools like the Marine Restoration Toolbox and Copernicus data help inform standardized policy-relevant decision-making, particularly for EIs and marine special planning in high-latitude regions?
Oh, there's a lot of elements to this question.
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, okay, how can the restoration toolbox and Copernicus data help? Well, I think we need data-driven approaches, right? And I think how I view this personally is that we are trying to use whatever data sources, including Copernicus, because Copernicus is a very rich environment with a lot of data, and the toolbox is really, or the toolkit they have available is an easy way to pull data. And the restoration toolbox is really about providing kinds of services for people to use to reach these policy targets, for example, from the EU Nature Restoration Regulation. Yes, it is very difficult, I think, as this person probably knows, to move from demonstration to replication. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, but what we can do is look at similar kinds of data. No matter where you are in the world, probably eutrophication is probably something to consider for seagrass restoration, for example, and that's something we try to have people think about.
Okay, great. Thank you for this answer. Next question is, how and who evaluate effectivity, results, impacts of restoration?
This is a very complicated question. So I know a lot of people in the consortia are working on papers to address this. I think this is outside the scope of my talk, unfortunately, and this is a whole discussion within the restoration field.
Okay. Next question then is, what do you mean with anthropogenic debris, and what is the final resolution? Is it like 100 meters or?
So yeah, this is kind of what I'm discussing is basically in Svalbard and in many places in Norway, we have raw sewage going out in the fjord. So what the So we took several approaches to try to mitigate pollution release. So one of them was adding a sieve, basically, to the outflow for the sewage into the fjord. And what they did, and where the images come from, is they had ROVs, these blue-eye ROVs, going out and taking images and doing basically circles around and at larger and larger kind of areas out from the sewage. So I don't remember, but 50 meters, 100 meters, 500 meters, etc. And basically they were trying to detect how far sewage was moving, and everything, again, could be in that sewage, including plastic bags, tampons, all kinds of trash. So part of that was, again, part of our restoration action was trying to mitigate pollution through the sieve, but also we had a social campaign trying to teach the locals and teach tourists what you can and cannot put in the toilets. So don't put your tampons directly in the sewage, otherwise that will go directly in the fjord. And we're trying to, with these images, figure out how far out these were spreading. The resolution of the images, I do not remember at the top of my head, but it was quite fine resolution because, again, it was this ROV going on the seafloor taking images.
Okay, great. Thank you. It was a very interesting topic. So next is, can you elaborate a bit about the habitat-specific protocol? What is it in practice?
So again, I'm mostly on the technical side developing the toolbox, but I'll give a stab at it. But you should really contact people in the CLIMAREST consortia. They have many feelings about this. But essentially, when you're developing a protocol for marine restoration, you should really be tailored to your area. So, for example, when they were doing the seagrass planting, it might be that you use a screw in one area and another method works better in a different area. So you really need to develop a protocol that's tailored to your specific area and for your specific target, whatever species or group that you're trying, or habitat former that you're trying to restore. So what that means in practice is you're trying to figure out exactly how to do this, how to evaluate your success. So that might be something like mapping area extent, things like that. So again, I'm not the super expert on this topic in particular, but you should contact people in the CLIMAREST consortia. For example, Simonette Franceschi. She's I'm just butchered her name, but she's the expert here.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, will the Blue Cloud be expanded and continued from demo into application?
So Blue Cloud is currently funded into 2026, and it will be, again, integrated into this EOSC DTO alongside Edito. So this is just kind of developing as we speak. So I am not 100% sure what that will exactly mean, but the infrastructure will keep running. And I think from demo into application, from what I understand, Edito is really going to be the place where things move from kind of science experiments, which is more Blue Cloud's kind of niche, to being full-scale application. So we're hoping to move in that direction, but in this project, the scope of it was more, okay, what demonstrators can we create? What data can we use? What kind of services do people need? And mapping those needs and trying to start addressing approaches and trying things out. This works, this doesn't work. It was very experimental.
Okay, great. Next question is, the Marine Restoration Lab, in my opinion, has a great potential in the future to be used by us marine scientists. I was wondering if in the future it can be used to analyze mangroves.
Yes, I saw mangroves and seagrass coral. Yes, these are all things that we hope to expand in the future with future projects. I think that it would be really great to work with new systems and new groups that have new challenges and be able to just take the approach is very versatile, right? It's just taking different data sources together, working with people to understand their challenges and try to make services that match those challenges that might help them address them in a data-driven and scientific-backed way.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we have a last question, but it's not exactly to you. It's more like addressed to to us. Is it possible to have access to this to review your work? I'm currently working on seagrass crawl interaction. So for the links, we have shared the links in the chat on the event web page. It's also gonna stay there as well. Yeah, all the presentations and the links will be shared on the website, so you can access it later. And yeah, you have something else to say, Lara?
No, feel free to reach out if you have any questions about it. And if I'm not the right person to answer a question, I can put you, for example, if you reach out to me, in touch with Simonetta or whoever else in the consortium might be best to answer your question. I'm very happy to pass along context. Everybody is very happy to engage with the community.
Great. That's very nice to hear. So that was it. We don't have more questions, but again, if we receive some, we will send it to you, Lara, to answer. So thank you very much for your answers. Thank you for your presentation as well. And thanks to our participants for the questions. And now I am giving floor back to Marine to give some last remarks.
Thank you, Daria. Yes, I will just keep you for 2 to 3 more minutes just to give you some final information. So thank you very much to all our speakers from today, and thank you to everyone who asked questions and took part in this webinar. We hope you now have a better understanding of how Copernicus Marine and operational ocean data provide continuously updated and holistic picture of the ocean. Part 2 of this training session will happen this Thursday from 10 a.m. Central European Time. We will show you how to access and download data through the Copernicus Marine Toolbox with Leila, and we will go through the demo of 3 tutorials using Python, R, and QGIS. They are already available on the tutorials tab of the event website, so feel free to have a look before Thursday. One last reminder as well about replays and polls. You'll find both of these on the event website through the menu at the top of the page. We will also send you an email to let you know when the replay is available and a link to the poll about today's webinar. If you'd like to go further after today's session, I also encourage you to visit the Copernicus Marine Service YouTube channel, where you'll find replays of webinars and training sessions from the past few years, and they're all freely available, of course. And you can also discover all Copernicus Marine events, both upcoming and past events, through the Events tab in the top right menu of the website, where you can find where you can open any event page for details and registration. So that's it for today. Thank you again to everyone who joined, and we will see you on Thursday for day 2. Bye and have a great day. Thank you very much.